Um, some of you probably already know a little bit about my people curriculum, and I really, 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 really love this new one that was done. I hope you can see it and it's not backwards here. Ooh. Oh well, if it's not, you know what it says. It says people, but the colors are really, really pretty. And actually a young lady about your guys' age who just graduated from college was also in a similar situation as you all, going, COVID hit, what's going on? She had all these skills, and a lot of it gets put on hold in terms of her educational pathway, job pathway, and she is so talented. And out of all the people that I've had create pieces of art for me, I would have to say she's one of the most talented. And I share that story because it really is a testament to the ingenuity of youth. And when I say youth, meaning not old like me on the path to being a Karen. So even though we're all in a place of difficulty right now, I want you guys to realize that your unique gifts and enthusiasm really bring another much needed aspect into the workforce and the educational force. So to never dampen your dreams or beliefs because of the idea that you might be younger than somebody else that's going out there to get a job or to start their educational career. So anyways, the people curriculum. What's really important and what we're going to be focusing on today, and I already kind of talked about this with the kiddos that I worked with yesterday, the youngins, is really looking at the bottom, because the bottom of anything, just like when you're about to build a house, right? Anybody who's ever seen construction, they know that the foundation or the concrete that gets poured under the house has to be so very strong for it to stand the test of time. We have buildings that have lasted for a long, long time. Anybody know maybe of a archaeological edifice or building that's lasted a long, long time? You can put it into the chat room and I can see if you all know. It's shaped like a triangle, but not. You guys know what I'm referring to? Very good. Yay, you guys are so smart. So yes, those have been around a long time, those pyramids, right? And so that foundation, as you know, is so big right there. And it always starts out and it's the biggest at the bottom. And that's why when we talk about emotion regulation, and before we did talk about that in previous classes, but I've kind of added on another part of it. A part of it is that it's a more soulful, spiritual level. And one of the reasons why it's so important to have this foundation is because everything that we do as we go through life has to be disseminated down and processed on an emotional level. So let me get to the bottom E, which is the bottom of the people curriculum. And that is, I hope you all can read it. We start at the bottom and it says elemental, okay? Does anybody know what elemental might mean? It's very similar to what we've been talking about right now, which is the foundation or the pieces, the integral pieces within the building of a foundation. Primary or basic? Very good. We have got some smart ones. And yes, it does mean how big it is. We have to have some really strong elements to who we are as human beings to withstand the test of time, just like the pyramids. So some of these elements people would say would be kind of if we looked at it from an earth perspective, we have water, fire, earth, and air, right? And those are all sort of things that are inside of us. Air being what we do in terms of our thoughts and what's going on there. Fire would be something that's like a passion or excitement that we have about life, a passion that we have about our connection to our families, to our pets, to our dreams. Land would be the earth where we get a lot of our grounding. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get to the electricity part of it. And actually it kind of segues in perfectly with me shorting out all of my electronics recently. So, and then last but not least, I had earth, fire, wind, and water. Water is our emotions. And that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. And our emotions will often come out in tears. And I don't know about you guys, but it is inevitable. It always happens that I cry if I'm frustrated. I cry if I'm sad. I cry if I'm this. I cry if I'm that. And it is a good way to cleanse. But those emotions can kind of come out of the middle of nowhere, especially as we're going through our day, especially when we're dealing with disappointments, like having to put on our dreams aside, for instance, by having to really decide, okay, well, right now, I can't go out and go to school in person, or I can go out to school in person, but I have to wear a mask, and that's confusing to me as to why that is. Or I don't feel confident right now because there's a virus out there to go and get a job. Or I worry about the people in my family coming down with it, and so it's really paralyzed me. Sometimes emotions can do that. So what I'd like for each of you to do is to think about how you, in particular, process emotions. And think about some of the ones that are the most sticky for you. And go ahead and put that in the chat room, and we'll talk a little bit about it. And this is a place where, it's safe. And if you don't feel comfortable sharing, and I completely understand. I'll share because that's one of the things that I do. I find that sometimes my expectations of myself and the desire to meet said goals, for instance, I would much rather be in person with you all right now, but I'm having to do it behind a screen. And so I miss my hugs. I miss my kiddos and you guys aren't kiddos, but you are a kiddo to me because you could be mine, eating candy and laughing and having a good time. So, when the COVID hit, there was a huge shakeup of the emotions, and it took me by surprise, and my expectations of where I was going and what I was going to do changed right after me, right underneath. Well, the rug got pulled out from underneath me. That's a figure of speech. And so, man, was I happy that I had a pretty solid foundation of that pyramid, right? I had a solid foundation. And one of the things that is, like one of our friends have said here, is that the people that were once that solid foundation for you, which were your friends or your teachers that you got to see every day, because somebody your age, between the ages of 18 and 24, this is the time for you to be flying the nest. This is the time for you to be going out and perhaps trying living on your own, or engaging in your first job, or even, living in the dorms in a college environment, driving, just having a lot more individual and freedom. And so, it's really difficult when all of that gets taken away. And the thing about the pyramid, which is really important with this also, is that these elements and these emotions that come along with it as they get shooken by us, when we don't have our beacons to keep us safe, it can feel really disarming. And once we kind of realize we ourselves are our own little pyramid, right? That we're building up those bases, or if we look at it from the circle point of view of the people, we then have other people in our household, people that have their own little separate pyramid of emotions and elements like emotions coming through them in the water, or their passions that get put to the side, or maybe they're having to, let's say if you're still living with mom and dad, they're going through their own trials and tribulations that are causing their foundation to be shook. And so part of what we're going to be doing in this class is not only talking about what you personally can do to build up these people skills and get that real solid foundation, is we're also going to be having parent support, because I know for parents, me being one, I don't have a child that is in the same age bracket as you all, but Miss Debbie does, and I can definitely put myself in the shoes of other parents that are going through this similar thing of, my child's about to go on, you know, they're going to fly the nest, they're going to go to the next level, and I don't know if they're prepared. How much freedom do I give them? How much access to electronics, friends? What does that look like within the situation of COVID, with everything that's going on in our political and sociological environment? It's a pretty stressful place. So if you figure, we kind of have all these little pyramids, and there might be 5 of you in a household. There might be 2 or 3 of you in a household. And guess what? You're all interacting with one another. You're all pinging and sending information back and forth. And so the good thing about that is that you have your built-in support. And the other really good thing about that is if you get your foundation really under control and understand that what you're doing and all these steps that you're putting into place are going to be positively or negatively or neutrally, meaning not really affecting those around you, then you can start realizing that just a little bit of change within you, a little bit of taking of responsibility, or the ability to manage your emotions, so you're not like me and decide to to make electronics go zing because you're not managing your emotions well, is that you can start seeing the effect that you have on others and how that within your family changes things. Because who here in science learned about systems? And do you know what a system is? I know there's some smart ones out there, so let me see you type it in. What is a system in relationship to maybe a family? Yeah, it's a hard thing. Good, I'm glad you're thinking about it. Well, a system, okay, the way you have adapted to do things. Oh, very good, very good. Yeah, and we all have systems of engaging within the outside world, systems of managing our emotions, our body, our choices that we make in life. But we also, a system can also be seen as, you know, you would have a little microcosm, like the earth would be considered a system. And within that system, it would be what we would call closed or open. So from a science perspective, it's an energy body, okay? Well, a family, you figure, let's just for the sake of traditional way of looking at things is, you know, maybe we have the mother, father, and the 2 children. So at that point, you have a square system, and each one of you is within that. And so anytime, let's say dad goes off to work during the day, hypothetically, and on his way home, maybe he gets into a car accident, or he gets a call that's disturbing, or maybe something had happened during the day at work. And by the time he gets home, his pyramid, his foundation is a little shook, okay? And he comes into the family home, and that system gets brought in with some different emotions and energy and electricity, because we are electrical beings. When I say we're electrical beings, what do you all think that means? Because that's kind of hard to think about. We're electricity, not like the electricity coming out and zinging down from the heavens, but the electricity meaning like within our brain waves, okay? We have multiple different brain waves that go about and that keep our brain flowing. We also have, power and influence. Very brilliant. That is right. We are extremely powerful, extremely powerful. And sometimes we don't know, has anybody seen those funny memes where people will say things like, my resting bee face, and I'm using these words because I know you guys can handle it, you're young adults. So yeah, that resting face that looks like you're really upset. At that point, your body is showing the environment what's going on with you internally, okay? And so part of what we're going to be talking about a lot in the classes is what your body is and your facial expressions are communicating. And I know a lot of you, and myself included, I'll for instance, with my son, or even people that have worked with me before, or students, they'll say, Miss Erin, I can tell there's something going on with you, because our faces don't lie. Our eyes are the windows to our soul. They can tell if we're feeling down. They can tell if we're maybe hyped up about something, or something has happened within our lives that have gotten us off track. And so, that's one of those things where, as we go up through the different levels of the pyramid, we will be talking about how our observation skills and our ability to look at ourselves and what we're reflecting out into the environment is, and how that's influencing the systems we come in contact with. Because just like we talked about, Mr. Alex, I know we talked about the things that you really miss since COVID happened. Because those things are systems too. Maybe it's a system of school. For those of you who have recently graduated from high school and no longer have a cohort, or recently graduated from college and don't have a place to go to have that system, okay? And those people, when you were going into it, were reacting off of you too, and you were influencing them in any number of ways. Any other areas that you would think would be systems? So we have school, we have home. Where would be another one? Maybe the community. And when we use the word community, what do we mean? Perhaps a church that you're involved with, a group that you, or a club that you're involved with. And then we have a whole nother level, which Miss Debbie and I, because we're basically Karens, don't have any reference to, is there is a whole new world of online, which is an entire extra level, exactly, of information and social media, things that we see online that add in a whole nother layer of a system that we're interacting with, that is affecting our emotions, that is affecting our electrical input. How many of you have ever posted something, let's say on a social media site, and this isn't a place of judgment. I think all of you engage in some form of social media, and you have an expectation about how a certain person will respond, or a certain hope when you put it out there, and they don't give you a like, they don't comment, or maybe they do, and something inside of you gets triggered, some emotion gets moving that tells you it just kind of feels not so good. Because why is, I'm just going to use the example, Susan getting all the likes or the follows on a YouTube channel or an Instagram? It's a whole cruel world out there, right? Online. And it brings on a whole new level. I always like to, when I explain it to my mom, who really is a Karen with the name Karen, sorry mom, love you, is it's a whole new thing where, before we would get bullied, let's say Miss Debbie and I, before all of the internet was going on, or even my mom, Karen, and it would happen within the time span of you being in school, right? Maybe like an 8-hour period of time. And then you would go home and you would have that calm that would come about with being in a home where you're loved and supported, and you're not having to deal with peers or friends or strangers that you see on the internet. Okay. And then now, you guys, it's 24/7, right? We have people who are commenting online about things that we post, things that are happening within our world, things that are happening in politics, things that are happening, let's say, we've already used the word COVID a bunch, and it is all affecting us, good, neutral, bad, any number of things. But it's giving us a little zing. It's coming into our system. So I think that it's really important for each of you to remember that you are up against something that myself, people in my generation and older have never dealt with. And so I think as you go through this, as you start to realize that there's a whole new world, and I've heard stories of people creating whole different personas online, because not everybody's completely genuine with what they present out there, and it looks like we have filters, we have people posing for things, we have the ability to manipulate video and photos, where somebody may look like they are the most popular person in the world, or that they spend so much time doing this and doing that, and deep inside they're actually the ones that are what I'd like to say, like they're having a mask that they're having to put on to be that persona. And guess what? I'm 42 years old, and this stuff that I'm talking about right now, it still affects me. It affects all of us. But why, I put out a video or something, well, why didn't this person like it? Those are the little thoughts that creep into our heads and that affect us. And so some people you'll see, they don't have the confidence to put anything out there out of fear. Others, they do put stuff out there, but then after repeatedly having a negative response to it, will change their behavior and compress down and go, okay, well, this isn't what other people want from me, so I will change who I am. And that's a very, very tricky slope. Why do you think that is a tricky thing to do when you start to change who you are based upon what others think about you. Some people that you've never met before. What do you think can happen? Yeah, we lose a little bit of ourselves each time, you know, and we change and turn into somebody that isn't true to our soul's purpose. We become, especially some of us, we become what we think other people want for validation. Do you all understand what that means? Very good. Or you question your decisions. Go, oh, should I not set that? Based upon the feedback that you're getting from another system. A system that is in a virtual world, in a cloud. Isn't that insane? And right now, it's our only way of interacting with one another. Oh, mind blown. So these are the trials and tribulations that you all are up against. And I've always been known to be honest. And so I'm going to tell you what I see and what I feel like you all are up against out of love and care for each of you, because I want to have you start expanding, looking at who you are in the world that you live in. So, and how that will change depending on how much you're engaging in that outside world. And especially as you take the steps to go through the process of moving out of your home, of your parents, is that you're going to be influenced by this even more. You maybe won't have somebody coming out and saying, oh, time to turn off your device, or let's not watch this show right now. Let's watch something else. So you don't have mom and dad over your shoulders. And I know some of you are going, sweet, zing, I'm excited to get out there and just do what I want. But we have to think about the psychological and the social ramifications and what we're putting our very, very precious soul into, what we're exposing it to, and changing it by engaging in some of this behavior. And so I pose these questions to you so you begin to start thinking in that way. And I want to share a story, because I love to share stories, and I've shared this before, I believe. I think I didn't realize how much marketing and I don't know how much you all know about marketing, but that's the thing that sells things. That's the commercials that are running on TV. That's the, oh, I'm hungry every time I see a Burger King or McDonald's or things like that, and it's meant to put an idea in your head. It goes, oh, I need to go out and go and get that fast food, or I need to go and get that, or man, that girl or guy on there is really good looking. Gosh, why don't I look that way? Well, when we were growing up, I didn't even have a cell phone until, and we didn't even have internet until I went off to college, until I was your age, 18. So now, in retrospect, I look back at the time there was this magazine. There was a big magazine in the 90s. So I'm dating myself. It's called, I believe it was called Shape, the Shape magazine. It was all about how to get fit. And every single page, I would go through it, and I started noticing that my stomach, my stomach would be in the worst knots. My heart would be palpating or beating really, really strong. And I was having a visceral reaction to what I was seeing within that magazine. Could anybody kind of comment as to what they think I might have been seeing that would have been triggering me in that way? This is, you guys can do a little bit of your skills of putting your perspective taking, of putting yourself into my shoes. And think about that. What was I seeing in the magazine that was making me have a visceral or emotional response within my body? We also, in science, will call it a somatic response. It was making me feel insecure. That is right. That was right. So, but what were my eyes seeing? What do you think I was seeing or reading? Beautiful shaped girls, that's right. Beautifully shaped girls who were photoshopped, whose makeup was perfect, with diet plans on how to get and look that way. Let me see, makeup that I needed to buy so I could look that way. Ads for clothes that maybe my family couldn't afford, or that just never would look good on my body. All of those things, okay? Vacations, that's right. These people going to these magnificent places. Well, that was just in one magazine, and I was able to close it and get rid of it eventually, right? But guess what? We have that on the phone all the time now, and you all have it too. And so one of the things that I'm going to be challenging you to, and I know it's not something that you're going to really want to hear, but I'm going to bring it up because I want it to be just kind of placed within your head for future reference. Is if we are being influenced at such a level that a little magazine that I could, you know, close and go, Mom, hey, I don't want that that subscription anymore. I don't want it to come here. Granted, I didn't do it for a long time because it's kind of like when you really want like extra Sunday with all of the good stuff on it, and you go, oh, I always get a tummy ache when I do it, but darn, it's so good, so I'm going to keep doing it. So it took a while for me to realize what was causing my insecurity and tummy ache from there. And it probably wasn't until I was older, but I think just naturally, I just was like, oh, I didn't want to do it anymore. So this is just kind of a little nugget that I'm giving you to think about, is what can we do for ourselves? Because soon Mom and Dad are not going to be telling you what you can and cannot see, or how much you can be seeing on the internet or on TV or the news that you're reading, which is really horrific right now with what's going on. How much of the time are you spending seeing things like that? Because I know when I get on, let's say, Facebook or Twitter or Instagram especially because of all the pictures, that just as I'm going through, I'm bombarded by the most amazing pictures of these beautiful people doing some things that are clearly not something that I'm doing in my everyday life. And so even if I'm just going to see my friends, my brain through my eyes is still processing and seeing those things, seeing that engagement. And so I'm being affected little by little by little by little. So what I've had to do, which all of us adults have to do too at some point in time, is to find a way to detox and get away from my device. Okay, good. When I spend too much time, she can see herself getting really affected by it. Very good. You know, and it's going to feel bad at first, but it's just like, I know some of you have probably thought, gosh, I really wish Mom or Dad would exercise more, or maybe not drink as much, or spend more time with me. Okay. There are some things that you would hope that they would change too for you. And it's the same thing for yourself. You know, it's a lot easier to point out in others what they should be doing. So this was difficult for us too. And I give the example of my son. He was quite little at one point, and I was starting out my business, and I had to be on my phone all the time, and not even realizing the power that it had over me. It was in my pocket, and it would zoom, zoom, it would zing me. It would send an electricity bolt right into my leg and shake me to my core. And I'd think, oh, somebody needs me. And so I'd pick it up and check it and get involved in it. And for those of you, what do you think that was inadvertently? Not even purposely, because was my intent malicious? No, I thought I was helping other people. I thought I was giving love and helping others in need. But what was I inadvertently doing every time I checked that phone, or when I was on it all the time? What was I communicating to my son? Anybody know? Maybe you need to put yourself, maybe you've experienced this with your parents or a friend that you're around who constantly is on their phone rather than paying attention to you. Yeah, I really was communicating to him that he wasn't that important. Telling whomever you are with that they aren't important. That's right. But it's hard. It's really hard. And so what I would do is say, start little. I'm not asking you to throw away your phone. Do I have my phone around me? Yes. Wait, I'm talking to it. I was just starting to look for mine, okay? Is to just take little breaks from it and go, okay, this has become too much. When I go to this particular website, let's say, or when I'm on YouTube, or I go to that friend's page on social media, it really seems to cause the electricity, the emotions in me to go haywire. I'm going to not go there. I'm going to take a break from it, okay? Or, you know, I'm starting a new project where I'm exploring some more of my creativity. And during that, I'm going to maybe put my phone in the other room with music on, because I know a lot of you like music, as do I. So it's not there, you know, I'm trying to turn off my ringer. I'm going to turn off so nobody is there to bother me. I don't see their stuff coming through. I'm still able to listen to my music, but I'm also able to begin drawing, working on my graphic design, working on a different dance routine, things like that that are really great for my soul. Or I'm going to work on making my connection with God and a higher being more important, and working on meditation and prayer. We will be going a little bit more into that and working on the tools to get to that place where you can begin to calm your mind down. And one of the biggest things you have to do is disconnect from your device, because we are electrical beings and we're getting the information from there. And it really, really is for your health. So it starts little, starts so little. Of course, I was a nerd growing up, and I would come up with little things. This was even before phones, but I loved English and reading poetry. And what I would do is, my poor parents, I would come home and say, I'm declaring that after a certain hour in the day, we are no longer going to be watching TV, and I was also a tyrant, we are going to be reading poetry by the fire. Because I knew on some level we needed to connect with one another. And so I was just going to be coming up with this idea. So I shared that as a joke, but also as a little bit of saying, look, okay, you guys can say that too. You can say, hey, I really want to work on my social engagement skills, or work on getting along during a meal with other people. So what I'm going to do is, mom, dad, sister, brother, let's all put our phones away for that 20 minutes and just not be around them, and try to engage in a conversation and see what that looks like. It's going to be harder than you think. I want you guys to kind of put on your thinking caps and think about times that you've maybe gone to a restaurant and, oh, very good. My mom and I read together every night. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's a wonderful way of connecting. Wonderful way. Before I saw that beautiful comment, I was going to say that, you know, how many times have you all gone to a restaurant before? And you look around, because part of being social beings and beings that are interacting with our environment is that we're observing what's going on. And you look over at a couple tables and you see that they're not even interacting. Maybe they're on a date. And maybe this is something that you guys have dreamed about, going with a special person out on a date and them giving you their undivided attention, right? And you see these people on a date and they're both on their phones. They're not even interacting or looking at one another. And you go, man, how did that happen? And this is somebody who's 50. This is somebody who's in their 30s. And so it sneaks up on us. And I think that small little habits like that will help and go a long, long way in helping to regulate your emotions, okay? And we're gonna, as we go week by week by week, and then after we bring everybody on, once I pause this recording or stop the recording, is we're gonna talk a little bit more about how those emotions affect us and why that foundation is so very important, and what it means to each one of us to have it strong and have it able to process through and integrate everything that we're seeing within our world. So, bye everybody out there.